Have you ever stopped to think about the incredible power that fuels our sun? The very force that gives life to our planet. It's a power so immense, so mind-bendingly potent, that for decades it's been the holy grail of science. We're talking about fusion energy, and for the longest time, it felt like something out of a sci-fi flick, a clean, limitless power source that was always 30 years away. But what if I told you that in labs around the world, that promise is finally moving from the realm of what if to it's happening? Get ready, because we're about to dive into the most significant scientific breakthrough of our time, exploring how fusion energy, the ultimate clean fuel, is on the brink of changing everything we know about power. For most of the last century, our nuclear power has been based on fission, a process where we split heavy atoms like uranium to release energy. It's powerful, no doubt, but it comes with a massive downside: radioactive waste that can remain dangerous for thousands of years, and the risk of catastrophic meltdowns. It's a dirty, dangerous, and expensive gamble. But what if we could flip the script? The myth of nuclear power is that it's all the same, a necessary evil. The reality is that fusion is the polar opposite. Instead of splitting atoms, fusion involves forcing light atoms like isotopes of hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium to smash together at unimaginable speeds and temperatures. This collision fuses them into a heavier element, like helium, and in the process releases an astonishing amount of energy. It's the same process that makes stars shine. The surprising fact? A single kilogram of fusion fuel could produce as much energy as 10 million kilograms of fossil fuels. And here's the best part. The byproduct is safe, stable helium, the same stuff you use to fill balloons. It's clean, it's powerful, and it's the ultimate contrast to our current energy sources. Think about it. No carbon emissions, no long-term radioactive waste, just pure, safe power. So if fusion is so perfect, why haven't we built power plants yet? The biggest challenge in achieving fusion has always been recreating the conditions of a star here on Earth. This is where the term ignition comes in. Ignition is the moment when a fusion reaction becomes self-sustaining, meaning it produces more energy than we put into it to get it started. For decades, this has been the impossible barrier. The myth was that the energy required to heat the plasma to 100 million degrees Celsius and keep it stable was just too high to ever be worth it. The reality? Scientists have been inching closer. For years, fusion experiments would produce reactions that only lasted for fractions of a second and consumed more energy than they created. It was like trying to light a match that kept going out. But then, on December 5th, 2022, a team at the National Ignition Facility in California announced a groundbreaking achievement. For the first time ever, they achieved scientific energy break-even. They got a reaction to produce more energy out than the laser energy they put in. It was a net gain, a quantum leap forward. This isn't just a small step. It's a giant leap for mankind. So it proves that the physics works, that the seemingly impossible can be achieved. It was a monumental shift from theory to tangible reality. Now that we know it's possible, what does it take to make it practical? To achieve fusion, you need to work with something called plasma. While we're used to solids, liquids, and gases, plasma is often called the fourth state of matter. It's what happens when a gas gets so hot that its electrons get stripped from their atoms, creating a soup of positively charged ions and negatively charged electrons. The myth is that you can just heat up some gas and get fusion. The reality is that controlling this super-hot plasma is arguably the hardest part of the entire process. At 100 million degrees Celsius, it would instantly vaporize any container it touched. So how do we hold it? We use massive superconducting magnets to create a magnetic bottle in the shape of a donut, known as a tokamak. These incredibly strong magnetic fields suspend the plasma, keeping it from touching the reactor walls. The surprise? The plasma in the center of the sun is only about 15 million degrees Celsius, but we need to heat our plasma to over 100 million degrees. Why? Because we can't use the sun's immense gravity to compress the atoms. We have to rely on extreme temperature alone to get them to fuse. The technological challenges of creating these powerful magnetic fields and managing this hyper-hot swirling soup of particles are immense, But with new breakthroughs in superconducting magnets, we are getting closer to making this control not just a scientific feat, but an engineering one. But what does a fusion-powered world actually look like? The immediate impact of fusion energy isn't just about clean power. It's about a complete global reshuffling of power. The myth is that fusion will be too expensive to ever be viable. The reality is that while the initial investment in a fusion plant will be huge, the fuel is incredibly cheap and abundant. The primary fuels, deuterium and tritium, can be sourced from ordinary seawater. The world's oceans contain enough deuterium to power humanity for billions of years. Think about that. Unlimited fuel, extracted from a resource that literally covers our planet. The surprising fact? This would completely eliminate our dependence on fossil fuels and unstable geopolitical regions. No more oil wars, no more battles over natural gas pipelines. Countries like the United States would gain true energy independence, and nations that are currently resource-poor could become energy-rich. It would democratize power in a way that has never been possible before. We could build these plants anywhere with access to water, providing cheap, reliable energy to developing nations and helping to lift millions out of poverty. It's not just about a power source, it's about a new foundation for civilization. But with such immense potential, what are the next steps? For decades, fusion research was primarily the domain of huge government-funded projects like ITER, a massive international collaboration based in France. The myth was that only governments could afford the staggering costs of fusion research. The reality today is that private companies are now leading the charge, fueled by massive venture capital investments. This influx of private money has introduced a new sense of urgency and a Silicon Valley-style mindset of rapid prototyping and innovation. Companies like Commonwealth Fusion Systems, backed by Bill Gates and other tech billionaires, and Helion Energy, which has secured a massive deal with Microsoft, are now in a very public race to be the first to deliver a commercially viable fusion power plant. The shocking part: these private companies are setting timelines for a grid-connected plant within the next decade, far more aggressive than the government timelines. This is a game-changer. It's no longer a slow-moving bureaucratic science project. It's a high-stakes competition with billions of dollars on the line. This competition is driving innovation at a breakneck pace, accelerating the path to market. It's a new kind of space race, but this time, the prize isn't the moon. It's a future powered by clean energy. So, how does this energy even get to our homes? Once you have a sustained fusion reaction, the challenge shifts from pure science to engineering. The myth is that fusion is so complex that we don't know how to convert its energy. The reality is that the process of turning fusion's energy into usable electricity is surprisingly similar to a conventional power plant. The intense heat from the fusion reaction is used to boil water, creating steam. This steam then turns a turbine, which is connected to a generator that produces electricity. The only real difference is the heat source. Instead of burning fossil fuels or relying on fission, you're using the energy from a man-made star. The incredible part: since fusion produces no greenhouse gases and no long-lived radioactive waste, the entire system is orders of magnitude cleaner. The only waste heat is what's used to make the steam, which could be recycled in various ways. It's a beautifully elegant solution. The challenges are not in the conversion process itself, but in the materials that can withstand the intense neutron radiation produced by the reaction, which can degrade reactor components over time. Scientists are now focused on developing new materials that can handle these extreme conditions for a commercial lifespan. This is where engineering and material science meet, pushing the boundaries of what is possible. And what about the cost? The idea of unlimited power is often thrown around with fusion, but what does that really mean? The myth is that one fusion plant will power an entire country. The reality is that even a single fusion reactor will produce immense amounts of energy, enough to power hundreds of thousands of homes. But to truly replace our current energy infrastructure, we would need to build a fleet of these reactors. The surprising fact: the footprint of a fusion plant is relatively small, compared to a massive solar or wind farm needed to produce the same amount of reliable baseload power. Think of it. A single power plant could provide consistent, round-the-clock energy, regardless of whether the sun is shining or the wind is blowing. This kind of consistent, always-on power is critical for modern society, especially for things like manufacturing, data centers, and city infrastructure. It's not about just one plant. It's about creating a global network of clean, hyper-efficient power sources. It's a monumental engineering challenge, but one that is well within our reach. So what's the ultimate impact on our world? Imagine a world where electricity is so cheap and abundant that it no longer limits human progress. The myth is that we can continue to rely on a piecemeal approach of solar, wind, and fossil fuels. The reality is that a sustainable future requires a scalable, clean, and reliable baseload power source. Fusion energy offers just that. Imagine a world where desalinating seawater is so cheap that we can turn deserts into farms. Imagine a world where air conditioning is affordable for everyone, in every part of the world, no matter how hot it gets. Imagine a world where we can power massive factories and data centers with zero emissions. The surprising fact? This isn't a distant utopia. It's a future that major institutions and private companies are actively building. We are living through the most exciting energy revolution in history, a transition from a limited, dirty past to a limitless, clean future. It's a future powered by the stars, and it's closer than you think. If this mind-bending journey into the future of energy blew your mind, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. And tell us in the comments, what was the most shocking or interesting fact you learned about fusion energy? From the impossible dream of igniting a star on Earth to the reality of scientific break-even, we've seen how fusion energy is not just a scientific curiosity, but the key to a limitless, clean, and safe future. It's the ultimate solution to our energy crisis, a geopolitical game-changer, and a new dawn for humanity. So next time you look up at the sun, remember, the same power that lights up our sky could soon be lighting up your home. The question is, are we ready for the future it will unlock?